My injury was a rotator cuff rip that began in 2015. Throughout that period of time, working on off and on, my arm would swell up as I would drive. It would swell up and it would be painful where I couldn't use it. And this carried on, from 15 on until that I was terminated. But then they found out
So
that,
you're saying your arm swelled up even before you had your first surgery. Is that correct?
no,
No.
no. After the surgery,
Oh,
my arm began when I was put back to regular duty as a shuttle bus driver. At times, my arm would swell up. It would swell up, and it would hurt. And I would have those experiences throughout the years. And they did another MRI, which they seen another rip and a clavicle injury. And they went back in for a second time to repair that. And then to this day, I'm still, that's how the permanent restrictions came in. The permanent restrictions end up coming in because I had to go to the doctor. Dr. Barnhart.
okay. Your treating physician was Dr. Barnhart?
Yes.
And that's Barnhardt, correct?
Yes.
Was he your surgeon or he was just?
Yes, he was my orthopedic surgeon at that time. Yes.
I guess could you just tell me here, please, what I don't know anything specific. I mean, I know you drove a shuttle. Your main job was driving a shuttle van. Would you call it a van or a bus? What would you call it?
It was a bus.
Okay, a shuttle bus with up to 20 passengers, I believe you said. And
Yes.
this was something you would drive people on the campus from place to place?
Yes.
And you would drive students and staff, or was it just for staff? Or
students, faculty, and staff would all use the shuttle bus
okay.
to go to different areas within the campus.
Okay.
And I also,
all right.
Okay.
And as part of driving a bus, you had to use your right hand. Are you right-handed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you would have to drive a steering wheel for one thing, right? With both of your arms?
Yes.
Okay. And you also, how did you open? You'd have to open and close the door to let passengers in and out, right?
No, I had a button to push.
Okay. So how did that work? So there was a button you would push?
Yes, it was a button, up and down button, up to open and down to close.
Did you have to extend your arm to reach that button?
Not much.
So in terms of using your arms on the job, you would use your arms to steer, correct?
Yes, to steer
and to press the button on and off, or to open and close the door.
Yes.
And doing that during the course of the day after your surgery, your right arm would swell up?
Yes, at times it'll swell up and be very painful.
And there were times that it was so painful, or strike that. There were times where, because of problems with your arm, you were not able to perform your work as a shuttle driver?
Yes, I end up just using my left arm all day, every day, until I was able to see the doctor, because I was on full duty during that time. So when my arm would swell up, I would use my right arm
Wait, I thought you said your right arm would swell up, so then you'd use your left arm. I'm sorry.
No, my right arm would swell up, and then I would use my left arm.
Right,
This
right.
is this was the arm that I had surgery on in 2015.
Right. But you were saying your right arm, which was the one you had surgery on, and you're right-handed, but you'd be using that, and it would, at times, it would swell up, so you weren't able to use it anymore, or use it on the job. You would just rely on your left.
Yes, ma'am.
You were able to steer with just your left,
Yes, ma'am.
and you could touch that button with your the door opening button. You would press that with just your left.
No, with my right. Because I had to give my arm a break, but I would use it for the button.
So you'd steer with just your left, but you'd press the button.
With my right.
And you got this letter, which we looked at, and you have a copy of it, you said, in Respondents Exhibit 2, April 23rd. At that April 23rd, 2018, you were not, what was your employment? I mean, what was the status of your work at that time? Were you not working working because of, well, what were you on light duty then, or what was the situation?
At that point, I was on light duty for my left arm because I overcompensated it with my right arm. But I was able to work. The doctor said I was able to work, but I was told not to come to work until they give me a call. And that was like 2 weeks.
Oh.
That was 2 weeks.
All right. This is where we need to go back. There's somewhere in this documentation, which we haven't looked at yet, is a statement that you received from your doctor, right? Okay. So right now I'm looking at page ERD, the debates number 108. This is part of exhibit, I'm looking at the screen. I know I'm not screen sharing. Everyone has their printed copies of this to look at, but this is part of Respondents Exhibit 2. And a few pages in to that document, there is a certificate of return to work. Do you see,
Yes.
Are you looking at yours?
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of Respondents 2 in front of you?
I have it.
You know what? If you don't, I can just share the document then. No problem.
I have it. I have it.
Oh, you do? All right. Well, I do have it on the screen right now. If other people, if you need to look at it.
Okay.
And again, this is part of Respondents Exhibit 2. This is Bates page number 108.
Okay.
All right. So this is March 27th, 2018.
Yes.
So this is from your doctor. He gave this to you after an appointment you had with him on 3/27/28.
Yes, he did.
And he stated that you had restrictions.
Yes.
And I mean, I'll just read this into the record. It says restrictions, light effort work close to the body with minimal extending, reaching greater than 15 inches or light effort, push, pull, or lifting requirements for an 8-hour shift. Safe maximum lifting weight of 10 pounds using bilateral upper extremities, which she should be able to perform on an occasional basis. Okay, so first of all, after you submitted this, you gave this to the respondent, you gave this to UW Parkside?
Yes, to Chris Helgis. Yes.
I'm sorry, what was that?
To Chris Helgis.
Oh, the person we spoke to before.
Yes, that's who I reported my paperwork to.
Great. Okay. So after that, between this, when you received this, And when you, then in that other, this was March 27th, 2018, but if we go up to the letter of April 23rd, 2018, that that Ms. Glass sent you, what happened between March 27th and April 23rd? Were you working?
Light duty until, I was told not to, until I turned this paper in. I was working until I turned this on March 27th. I turned this paper in, and I was
Yeah.
told not to come in until they call me.
Okay, so you weren't working at all, physically working between 3/27/2018 and April 23rd, 2018, when this letter was sent to you. Is that right?
Yes, yes, I believe so.
So you
Yes.
were you getting paid, or were you on some kind of, you were on some kind of leave, paid leave?
I don't remember. I probably was on sick leave because I was also being treated for my left arm at that time.
Okay.
I had to
So,
use probably vacation or something. I don't remember.
so when you drove, did you need to, when you drove the vehicle, the shuttle bus, did you have to extend your arm?
Not there is an exhibit here with that's
Yeah,
extended.
and see, I thought, I don't know if you, Mr. McClure, I know that there is another document that I saw in here. Well,
Yes,
actually, it's the
that right
next
there.
page, 109.
Yes.
I mean, so I guess
So
I don't know if Mr. McClure, if you want to come in here or not. I mean, these are things that I would like to hear about, and whether, to what extent she's able to perform, Ms. Campbell is able to perform her work with these restrictions. And then I see a note here,
mhm.
which apparently is from the doctor. I don't know, I would want some testimony on that this came in on page
Right.
109. It looks like a note from the doctor,
Mhm.
and it looks like there's a letter
Mhm.
that this Chris Heilgeist wrote to the doctor asking him for some information. I mean, I guess I can just, um,
Judge, if you want to just follow up with a few questions, because I think you're getting to the nub of it anyway, I don't have any objection with your following through on that.
okay, all right. So, let's see. So it looks like now, if you look at this page, I have it up on the screen. You can look at the paper version if you want, but this is page 109, the
Mhm.
Bates page 109. There's a note from Dr. Barnhart here. So, I mean, excuse me, well, no, I don't want to talk about the note from Dr. Barnhart. First, I want to look at this letter from Chris Heilgeist. It's not dated, the letter, but it looks like there are some fax markings. I don't know if it was faxed on it looks like April 4th, 2018, but presumably in this letter, Ms. Heilgeist, this letter to Dr. Barnard, she's making reference to the restrictions from that Dr. Barnhart had sent in that were dated April 27th. So presumably this letter was sent a few days after that. And it's asking for some clarification. If you're looking at that letter, Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
it's looking for clarification as to if she was able, it says we are trying to determine the appropriate method for measuring the reach required of Tara as she drives the shuttle. And then it refers to a drawing, which is at the bottom of the page, which depicts an individual at a workstation. Apparently, this is meant to be a mock-up of how you would be working as a driver, sitting there and reaching.
Yeah, very.
And then, do you know, I see that there's a note here from, it appears to be from your doctor. Do you know this was sent? Were you sent a copy of this letter, or were you asked to present it to your doctor, or
Oh,
can you
ma'am,
tell me about this?
this is the first time I have saw this. I have seen this paper. The picture is a very extended picture with a long reach, and my reach was not that long at the original setting of my duties. I'm just seeing this as it was given to me, where he says, he told them to measure me from the tip of my shoulder to the tip of my hand. Okay. This, during the activity. So he wanted them to measure my arm while I was driving. I was not driving, and it wasn't measured. But they did come out and take some measurements of my arm and the steering wheel, and how many inches the button was from the button to my shoulder. They measured that.
Well, I'm very confused about when were these measurements taken?
Uh, Sometime probably after the,
Well, you handed in this doctor's statement of March 27th,
yes.
and he said that your reach shouldn't be more than 15 inches. Um,
Mhm.
um, or that there should be only minimal reaching beyond 15 inches. So after that, did someone ask you to go into a bus,
Yes,
one of the shuttle buses, and measure you? Who did that?
Chris Hilgis and Bob, the safety manager. I forgot his last name.
So you actually, sometime after you submitted this statement from the doctor, I don't know, you were called in and asked, so was this just a few days after you handed this in?
A week later or so, we made an appointment. I was called in for them to measure. But here he said during the activity. So, but I wasn't, I just sat there and they measured. And
So they said, so you were sitting in a bus, the shuttle bus that you would drive, and they had you like extend your arm to the steering wheel, extend your arm to the button that you would press to open the door,
yes,
and then
ma'am.
they would see how far out your arm extended that you were measured.
Yes, ma'am.
And I see in this letter from Chris Heilgeist that's on in this exhibit, Respondents Exhibit 2, she said apparently was this letter, it sounds like this was before you were actually measured, because this letter asks to determine the appropriate method for measuring the reach of your arm.
Correct.
So then after this, apparently this was given to your doctor, and then he wrote a response. Then there's a note here. Is this appears to be from your doctor? Or do you know that he wrote this note? I mean, did you submit this to him, or?
No, I did not. I never saw this until.
Okay. All right, you weren't given a copy of this at the time.
No,
But sometime in his note is dated, it looks like 4 April 9th, 2018. So in reference to that date, do you know when you were actually called in to have your arm measured? Was it sometime after that?
Yeah, it was yeah, it was sometime in April, probably. Yeah.
Um, all right. Did they tell you? Okay, so they measured your arm. Did they, as they were doing this, I guess it was Chris and Bob, you said, did they tell you what the measurements were? I mean, did they say, okay, your arm is out this many number of inches when you do use the steering wheel or when you press the button to open the door?
Yeah, they were referring to the certificate of return to work, the, trying to get an understanding of the reaching greater than 15 inches or like.
Right. But did they tell you as they were measuring you, oh, your arm is extended more than 15 inches or less than 15 inches?
Yeah, they did, but I wasn't doing the activity at the time. It
I
says
don't
during
understand.
the activity
Well,
driving. I wasn't in motion. I wasn't in motion. And if you would judge, Your Honor, if you look down here on the note too, where the doctor said based on the drawing, usual work falls within this requirement. And it says the occasional work falls outside of 15 inches as long as this occurs only occasionally.
right, but this drawing looks to be like just some kind of, standard drawing. It's not clear whether this represents, it's just the stick figures. It looks almost like sitting at a desk touching papers. I mean, this isn't specific to your bus? This doesn't look like a bus, does it? Is this
No,
meant to?
no, it does not.
So your doctor apparently from the notes, I mean, I'm just reading, on its face, it looks like he's referencing this drawing, but it's not clear to me that this drawing is representative of the actual situation in your bus.
No, it do not.
So they actually measured your arm in the bus. And did they tell you as they were measuring you, oh, when you extend your arm to reach the button, it's this many inches. And when you extend your arm to use the steering wheel, it's this number of inches. I mean, were you told what those measurements were, or were you given a written, a copy of that, or what?
No, I wasn't given a written copy of that. I was told that at the meeting when I was called in, after receiving uh, the exhibit 3, I believe. Yes.
Well, respondents exhibit, respondents exhibit 3 is your termination letter. Yes. I'm looking now at respondents exhibit 3, which is a termination letter. And it said, this is a letter from Ms. Glass informing you of your termination. And it says, it doesn't specifically say what the measurements are here.
Right.
And so it's unclear to me here. So unfortunately, based on the nature of your job as a bus driver and nature of the permanent restrictions identified by your physician, we are unable to provide you with an accommodation. This letter does not specifically state, I don't know if there's some other document, as to what the measurements were, that, your arm you had to reach too far to, that you were, had to extend your arm beyond what was stated in the doctor's statement, that you had to extend more than 15 inches. There's no reference here to that, is there?
No. No, there was not.
All right. I mean, I guess, we're going to be hearing from Ms. Glass, of course, and what she was basing this on. So we will hear that. But so I guess, what is your testimony here? Were you able to, when you were being measured there were you required, how far out did you have to extend your arm to turn the steering wheel and to turn the and to press that button to open the door.
Well, my area was very tight, so everything was, right here, right within my reach. So the picture, the drawing is very extended and not close
Okay,
to
you're
my,
talking about the drawing on Bates page number 109.
right,
That's not, you're saying that drawing, uh, i- which is part of Respondents Exhibit 3, you're saying this is not, this is not a good drawing or representative of how you used your arm when you were driving?
no, it is definitely not.
So is it your testimony that you would have been able to drive your bus, drive the shuttle bus, and stay within the restrictions imposed by Dr. Barnhart?
I believe with accommodations, I could have continued my position or another
Wait,
position.
what a comment. I thought you just said, though, that you didn't even have to extend your arm more than, more than 15 inches. So what accommodation did you need?
Well, he said that on here, he said, uh, outside of 15 inches, as long as this occurs occasionally through the day, this would be allowable under the above defined restriction. Exhibit number 2 with right here. That's what he said. He said it would be fine.
Right. So that's exactly why I'm asking. You have already told me that it's your belief that you didn't even have to extend your arm more than 15
Right,
inches in order to
correct,
do your work. So
correct.
therefore, do you believe that you were able to perform your job duties as a shuttle driver and stay within the doctor's restrictions?
Absolutely, yes.
So, but then why did you need an accommodation? What if you would be able to have, I mean, if you would have been able to perform the job, what accommodation would you have needed?
Because my arm would swell up, and so it would have to, he said occasionally, so therefore my arm couldn't constantly drive 8 hours. At some point throughout the week, it would swell up, or, and I would have to either use my left arm or, be accommodated to be
But what do
replaced.
you mean by an accommodation? I'm confused here now because I see what the doctor is saying. It appears he's going by this drawing, which would indicate that you had to stretch more, okay, he's saying that as long as you don't have to stretch more than 15 inches, more than occasionally, then it would be okay. And you're telling me that you didn't have to stretch out very much at all. In
Yeah,
fact, you didn't have to stretch at all, but I mean, it was within the 15 inches in order to use the steering wheel.
no,
Is
I
that
didn't
correct?
have to stretch. Yes, that's correct. I didn't, but in case that my arm would do, because it was it's a disability. So, I did not have to stretch that far. You are correct. I did not have to stretch 15 inches. However, my arm still was uh disabled because it still swelled up at times. So what guess I'm trying to say is, at the point that when my arm swelled up, then how would I what would I have done, within my job? Because regardless if I stretch the 15 inches or not, if I turning the wheel repeatedly, at some point it will swell up.
So you could not, an 8-hour work shift or a 10-hour work shift or whatever it was, you
Right.
would not be able, your testimony is that at that point you were not able to do the job, that the bus driving job. Is that correct? Because your arm would swell up.
Well, yeah, but I could drive. I could use my arm. I just have a disability. I can't consistently use my arm. And
So, but as a driver, when you're driving, you have to be able to, obviously, to turn the steering wheel. So so as far as, I'm not asking you if you could perform a job working as a dispatcher or doing something else now. which could be a possible accommodation. I don't know. But I'm just asking you, could you, your own statement as to what you understood your restrictions were, could you have for an 8-hour shift or a 10-hour shift have been able to, at that time, between, from late March to, late April of 2018, would you have been able to drive, given your restrictions? I mean,
At that time, no,
so you were not able to.
at that time.
That, well, that's
For
what,
for 8 hours,
okay.
40 hours a week. At that time, no.
Okay. So then when you say an accommodation, what are you referring to? You're talking about being given a different job during the time when you're not able to drive the shuttle bus.
As I worked there for 20 years and this injury came about, they have always been flexible in giving me work. At this point, it wasn't an option. It wasn't brought up.
Okay,
Wasn't
so that's exactly what I'm asking you. So when you say you need an accommodation, you were saying at that point, in order to keep working, you weren't able to do the driving, so you would to be accommodated, you would have had to have been given some other kind of work.
correct.
Okay. So when you're referring to an accommodation here, you're referring to being given another work assignment, a light duty, if you want to call it that, but some other kind of work assignment. So that's correct?
That is correct. And may I add that at the time, before I was told not to come to work at all, I was working light duty, locking down the university at that time.
Wait, when were you doing this?
That was in March before we got the letter from the doctor, the restrictions. And when they got the restrictions, I was told not to come in until they.
Oh, so earlier in March of 2018, you were doing how did you describe that job? The lockdown?
Yeah, security, like security.
So how could we refer to security lockdown work? Could we call it?
Yes, I was doing the university security, locking doors for 6 hours a night. About 5 or 6 hours a night. Wait, it was 6 hours.
So you were able to do that?
Yes, I did.
With even though you had the various arm restrictions, but you were able to do the lockdown work.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
And that was the lockdown work was at night? Was it like a third shift job, or what were the hours?
It was second shift. I will begin locking down the building at 10
p.m. and then you worked until when?
Midnight, I believe. It was midnight or 1.
Wait, that's only 2 hours of work.
No, I came in at 6.
And you worked until 10 p.m.?
12.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you worked from 6 to 12 to
Mhm.
midnight?
Yes, ma'am. I think it was 6 to 12, 5 to 6 hours, something like that.
And you had been doing that for how long at that point? I mean, you did it for several weeks or what?
I did it for a couple of months, I believe, because I also was doing before I locked down the buildings, I was doing the crosswalk with the students call for a ride. I was driving a little car transporting the students in a little car they had a little car that you transport students across campus. So I was doing that.
I don't know what you mean by a little car.
Well, I don't know what you call it because it's been so long. It's been almost 4
I mean,
years.
I don't know what you mean, like a golf cart kind of a little.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, like a golf cart.
Okay. So you would transport people in a golf cart? I mean,
Yes,
something similar to a golf cart? You, and this was at the same time, same period you were also doing the lockdown job?
yes, ma'am, in one night,
I'm going
every
to
night.
stop sharing so I can see you better, because when I have the share screen, the people's faces, including
Right.
yours, are very small. So I don't understand. All right. So you were working 6 hours doing the lockdown job, and then you also worked a few hours a week doing the drivings or driving students in this little car, in the little
In the,
golf cart,
in the
a
golf
couple
cart,
hours
yes.
a day,
Yeah, that
or
was
what?
my 6 hour light duty. That was my light duty position at the time. When I was doing that.
Wait. You were doing 2 jobs then? You were doing the lockdown at night and you were doing this crosswalk, this golf cart job at the
Yes,
same time?
yes, until 10 o'clock. From 6, at 10 o'clock, I would begin locking down the building.
Okay. All right. Now I'm sorry. I am confused now. You did the lockdown job from 6 p. I thought you did that from 6 p.m. to midnight.
No, the building began to get locked down at 10 at night. So when the students came in, they couldn't go in and steal the computers and things like that. So from 6 to 10, I would
Oh,
go into the building and wait for dispatch to call me and give me information to transport any faculty, staff, or student to a location where they needed to be. At 10 o'clock, I would start locking down the building.
okay. All right. Okay. Now this is okay. So from 6 to 10 p.m. you would use this, you would drive this golf cart to transport students
Yes,
and faculty or students, just
anybody that needed
okay.
a ride.
So instead of a shuttle bus, you would drive this little cart
Yes,
to take someone from point A to point B.
yes,
Okay, and then at 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. I guess, which is midnight, then you would be doing the lockdown work.
yes,
And this combination, the golf carts and the lockdown, this was for several weeks.
yes. It was my light duty schedule.
But then you went to see your doctor in late March, and then actually specifically on March 27th, 2018, and then he gave you these restrictions, and it was after you submitted the restrictions that you were told don't work at all.
Until I get a call. Absolutely.
And is it your testimony that in this golf cart, when you used the golf cart or drove the golf cart, you didn't have to extend your arm more than 12 inches?
No.
And I assume for doing the lockdown work that, I mean, you'd have to extend your arm somewhat, but it would be less than 12 inches.
Right, because I walked right up to the door and
Right. So
yeah.
the light duty job, you were, in your opinion, or from your perspective, you were able to perform all of the duties without violating the restrictions from the doctor.
Yes, that's why they put me in it, allowed me to do that.
Okay. All right. I guess for now that would be it for the questions that I've interjected here. Mr. Excuse me here. Mr. McClure, did you want to ask any further questions at this
Ju-
point?
Just a few more, Judge. I think you
Okay.
really brought it to a head there, and thank you for getting to the point.
Okay. You're
Tara,
welcome.
during the various times that you were either recovering from surgery or had some other short-term illness, were you always accommodated?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever hear any reports from your supervisors that they would not be able to accommodate you down the road?
No, never.
And what was the relevance of the statement that you are having too many surgeries? What was your point that you were focusing on when you talked about that earlier in your testimony?
Well, later on down the line after these restrictions, it, uh, it, it appears to me that was the ultimate goal. You know, I'm having all these surgeries, costing them all this money, and I paid my health insurance every month, on and off the job. I thought that was, it just seemed to be everything that was going on that was leading up to that's termination. The words that I thought back on, I didn't at the time I didn't realize it, you know, but the way that it was presented, we're not gonna keep you here. You having all these surgeries, costing us all this money, and we're not creating you a job. I mean, I put 23 years in with the state. Yeah, I got injured on the job. It's because of the job that put me in the state that I'm in.
Was there a statement that you could apply for other jobs by Ms. Glass?
I wasn't, she said at the last meeting that I could apply for another job, but it doesn't mean that I would get it.
That was at the
That's the
April
last,
25th termination?
absolutely.
All right, I'm looking at the letter in Respondents Exhibit number 2, the April 23rd letter from Ms. Glass. I think this is what you're referencing. I think it said something about, was there something in there about applying for other positions? I thought I saw.
No.
Mr. McClure, what letter are you?
No, I was referring to at the time of her termination on April 25th. I thought that was an in-person meeting,
It was.
and the letter was handed to her at that time.
Well, we didn't get into that, did there's this letter of April 23rd. Okay, wait. Where is the termination letter? Excuse me. The termination letter is in Respondents Exhibit 3. Excuse me. I'm looking, I assume you're looking at the printed out copy. I'm looking at the on the screen here. Respondents Exhibit 3, a letter dated April 25th, 2018 regarding the termination. And in that letter of April 25th, it says where it informs Ms. Let's see here, Ms. Campbell, that she's terminated, but it does say you are eligible in the second last paragraph. It says you are eligible to apply for other jobs that you may be qualified to perform. Is that what you were referencing then?
Yes, and just asking about the audible statement apart from the written statement, what she had heard at that time that she just testified to.
I'm sorry. Say that again, please.
Ms. Campbell just testified that she was given an audible statement by Ms. Glass at the April 25th, 2018 meeting that you can apply for other jobs, but that doesn't mean you're going to get them.
Okay. So a meeting was, just to clarify, Ms. Campbell, you had a meeting with Ms. Glass on April 23rd, 2018.
Both of these letters, we met. I came into the HR office on the 23rd, the 23rd letter and the 25th. The 23rd,
Oh, okay, I'm glad you clarified that. So you had two meetings
yes,
with Ms. Glass.
yes,
You met with her on April 23rd,
on a
and
Monday,
I'm sorry, your birthday?
on a
Wait.
Monday.
Oh,
On a
okay,
Monday.
glad yeah, I'm still having a little trouble hearing you. So I'm glad so on April 23rd you met, and then again on April 25th.
Yes, on a Wednesday.
And a Monday and a Wednesday. And then on the Wednesday, you is that when Ms. Glass, here, let me look at the letter. Is she handed you that letter of
Yes,
April 25th?
yes,
And the earlier letter of April 23rd, she handed you that letter
yes,
at the earlier meeting.
yes.
Okay. So, all right. Um, hmm. Okay. All right, Mr. McClure, anything else you wanted to ask?
Tara, how many people work in the Department of Public Safety where you work?
Oh, let's see. The dispatchers. I can't count for the part-time officers around that time, but I know we had 3 permanent, dispatchers. And we had, about 4, assistant dispatchers. We had 3, no, 4 permanent officers and probably about 4 or 5, part-time officers.
Anyone else who would come in from other parts of the university to provide assistance at times from a other department that would sort of back up the public safety department?
Uh, if you're referring to me, yes, I had backup drivers also.
And where did they come from?
They hired them.
Were they assigned to come in on a part-time as needed basis, or were they doing other things in the university and they would bring them over?
No, most of my backup drivers were retired, and during the times that I had surgeries, they would work and they would fill in. There was always a driver. We always had a backup.
Who did the lockup work when you weren't doing it?
The officers, that's what they wanted to eliminate the officers so they can be free to do other things.
Oh,
That was the officer's job to lock down the building.
The officers are trained to do more than turn keys, I take it.
Yes.
That would make sense.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you would like to state on your claim that you were terminated on the basis of discrimination on disability wrongly, or that you were not accommodated? Now is the time to sum this up for the judge.
On the April 25th, Exhibit 1, where it the last sentence I believe.
okay. Are we, no, wait a minute here. Are we looking at respondents exhibit number 1? Is that what you're talking about?
Exhibit 3.
What exhibit are
3,
we talking about?
Exhibit 3.
Oh, I thought you wanted to go back to the bus driver. Okay, exhibit 3. And what page of this document?
The first page, the letter of consequences.
Okay, so respondents exhibit 3, the letter of April 25th.
Yes.
Yes. What about it?
Okay, the last word say, I also review with you the steps taken to determine whether or not an accommodation could be made. There was no conversation of an accommodation with me made as a driver or made by assistant to accommodate me.
Okay, so it says in this letter, and this letter is from Sharonda Glass, who will be testifying, but it says, just so the record, and it's clear what you're talking about, it says, I met with both the Vice Chancellor and the Chancellor to discuss the permanent restrictions and the possibility of a permanent accommodation. Unfortunately, based on the nature of your job as a bus driver and the nature of the permanent restrictions identified by your physician, we are unable to provide you with an accommodation. Okay, so you were referring to that?
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
referring to.
so during your meeting with Ms. Glass on April 25th, or prior, you did not have a discussion with her. You did not have a discussion where you were present, where you talked about possible accommodations?
No,
Okay.
we did not.
So
We didn't.
whether or not she spoke to the Vice Chancellor and the Chancellor, you don't know that, but your testimony is that they didn't discuss, that Ms. Glass didn't discuss it with you.
No discussion to determine whether or not accommodation could be made was discussed with me.
Okay. So you're saying at no time in that, let's say that month prior to your termination, you know, during the time after the doctor gave you that restriction, the note with the restrictions, there was no, you had no, your testimony is you had no discussion at any time with Ms. Glass as to possible accommodations.
No,
Okay. All right. Is that it then for now?
Assuming all
And
the exhibits are of record and received that we've asked for.
well, there were no objections
Yes.
to complainants 1, 2, and 3, and then no objections to respondents 2 and 3. So those, all of those aforementioned exhibits have all been received into evidence already. So,
So complainant rests at this point.
well, you don't,
Yeah.
are you sure? I mean, I thought you, though, you wanted testimony from Ms. Glass as part of your case.
Well, within the context of the way we agreed in terms of an arm's length basis of rearranging witnesses, we're resting with Ms. Campbell. I'm reserving the right to cross-examine
Right, of
on
course.
the respondent's case.
All right. So your
Ms. Glass.
cross-examination is serving, will be instead of calling Ms. Glass adversely now. So so when you say right now you're resting, you mean you're resting your direct examination of Ms. Campbell. Is that what you
Yes,
mean? You're referring to? Okay.
thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. So then we are going to move to cross-examination. However, it's already noon, and we really haven't taken any breaks. So why don't we, I'm going to pause this recording for a moment as we discuss the schedule for the rest of the day, and then I'll get back on the record to say what we're doing. So, sec. All right, back on the record. It's now about 12:15, and we are going to take a lunch break now. We will reconvene at 1 o'clock. But there are all these other issues that we discussed when we were off the break, because Attorney McClure announced that he has some criminal case matters that he has to attend as a sole practitioner, and there's no other attorney in his office, or there is no other attorney in his office that can, you know, take over. So he has a proceeding at 2:30 and then another one at 4 o'clock. Is that correct, Mr. McClure?
Correct.
And so we are going to, well, we're going to we're going after our lunch break. We're going to go from 1 o'clock until 2:30, into when Mr. McClure has to attend to these other matters, and then we're going to go back on the record in this matter at 4 o'clock, and then go perhaps to 4:30 or 5. And then we're hoping in these 2 time chunks between 1 and 2:30 and between 4 and 4:30 or 5, that we will complete the testimony of Ms. Campbell, that, the cross-examination, any redirect, any recross. We're going to finish that. And then we are going to have to schedule a second day of hearing. We'll talk about that later, to get the testimony of Ms. Glass. And then also, while we were on break, Mr. Lynn announced that he wanted to call a rebuttal witness. So we also need to get, and who is that? Could you please state the name again for the record?
It's Robert Greashopper, or Bob Greashopper.
And how do you spell the last name?
G,
Just,
can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Okay. Gries
Okay.
Haber.
Grace Haber. Okay. And his position again is?
He is the Director of Safety.
Okay. And he was the Bob that was referred to earlier without a last name, I
That
guess.
is correct.
Okay, and he is going to testify about the restrictions, the 12-inch arm extension, and he apparently did some of the measurements for that.
That is correct. Yeah, he's going to testify about the measurements that were taken.
Okay. All right, so he would be testifying on the second day of hearing as well. All right, so I am going to go off the record in just a moment. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I will start a new recording when we reconvene at about 1 o'clock.
Judge, one moment. You had referred to coming back at 4 o'clock and continuing on. I have that hearing from 4 to approximately 4:20.
Oh, wait. Oh, I got that confused. I'm sorry. I guess you're right. No, just a
You would
minute
have to
here.
come back at 4:20 or 4:30.
Oh.
Not 4.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I was thinking of 4 o'clock because of a meeting that I'm going to go to in the meantime. So, okay, you're right. So we will reconvene at 4:20. You think that's safe in terms of you're almost sure you'll be?
Push it and get it done. I will appear on the screen as fast as we can do it.
All right. All right. And then, I'd say then perhaps we could go as late as 5, but that would probably be it for today. All right. So I will, I'm going to stop the recording right now.